Electric Fire 2 Hidden Chains Chapter 27.
The commander stood there eyeing me. He seemed more annoyed than anything. Probably noticed I was crying. I hated crying in front of others, and I hated it more crying in front of him. He probably thinks he was one technically he had. He captured me, it also ships my friend out. I just looked away from him.
I'm not going to kill you.
He spoke. I heard a gun being loaded just then. After he said that, my ears lowered a bit. I wasn't sure if I trusted what he said. But what he said next was haunting.
You don't deserve that kind of mercy.
His voice sounded cold and emotionless. I knew he hated me. I thought he was going to shoot me right there. But no. I didn't look over, but I could sense he lowered his weapon in return. I lowered my defenses a bit. He must have noticed. I glanced back at him, but no movement came from the man. I wondered why he wanted for me. If he wasn't there to kill me, then why was he there? Was he just going to keep me here in isolation? Or maybe as his own experiment? What did he mean about not killing me? And that I didn't deserve that kind of mercy? I wondered for a while, but there I go, overthinking again. The commander just stood there staring at me. I didn't move. I felt paralyzed as he looked me over. My ears drew back a bit, but then I glanced at my wrists. That was when I realized that the inhibitor rigs were gone. I wouldn't be able to use very much of my energy through any spears or blasts, not even teleports. I could already feel the energy being drained from me, but I froze as I realized who had my rings. I could see them in the commander's other hand, his left one. I'd made no sudden movement, afraid for my life at that time, not knowing if I was going to die or just pass out. But something inside me told me that isolation again wasn't his plan, but something else. I was at my lowest point. The only friend in my life was gone, and I felt like I couldn't do anything about it. The one person I wanted to protect, and he had been shipped out to Robotnik. I was beaten. It felt like I had nothing left to fight for. This was exactly how I fought after losing Maria. It's how Gun won the first time. But seems they've won again. Why do I have to lose a friend all over again to this agency? I clenched my left hand into a fist. Something seemed off, like I was missing something. But I didn't look, staring at the commander blankly, feeling helpless once again, as I remember crashing to the ground that day, in the cryonics surrounded. I couldn't escape. I ended up passing out due to the impact. All I ever wanted was to live my own life, instead of following what my creator had planned for me as a failure. I just wanted to not live like this. I remembered why I had decided to make the choice I had before. I live to regret it now, but I'm starting not after winding up back here. The very thing I didn't want to happen. This was my only reason as to why I decided not to be saved by Sonic back there. Also knowing Gun, they'd cover up the incident and say it was my fault that the creature was released. Yes, I was part of the reason for it, but I wasn't the one who woke in it. My eyes shifted a bit as I looked at the commander, awaiting for whatever was to come of me, accepting my fate, having nowhere else to go. I couldn't go back to Taunani, not without Sonic.
I've been told you were a weapon, capable of destroying the world in a single blow. Some ultimate weapon you turned out to be. You aren't even worthy of the title you've been given.
The commander spoke mockingly as he circled around me. I felt that last part was true. I had known that for quite some time, ever since I've been seen as a failed experiment. An ultimate life form is deemed as perfect, but I am far from that. My creator saw through it, through most stuff. Doesn't affect me like it would with others, but under so many experiments. Sonic didn't see everything, but enough that on that one disc, that terrified him. I stayed there, side to the wall behind me, knees against my chest, arms wrapped around them. I still said nothing. I didn't even try to defend myself at all. I knew that everything he said was true, but I'll admit it still hurt. My energy was draining quickly, but I made no attempt at attacking. I guessed he took my rings off when I was unconscious, as a precaution. Energy draining fast at the moment. Eventually I'd black out. This time it could be my last. I was more powerful with the rings off, but I could make no moves to attack. Sure, this guy figured I was dangerous to be around, but I didn't want to prove his point to be true. It wasn't like I was unstable. Then I saw movement behind the commander, out of the corner of my eye. A red echidna poked his head into the room from the doorway before disappearing. I said nothing, guessing maybe I was imagining it. There's no way someone other than Sonic would try and break me out of this place. The commander looked back behind him but didn't see anything. He just looked back at me.
Trying to trick me, huh?
I didn't reply to his question. I thought about crawling up in a ball, but I figured that's what this guy wanted from the ultimate life form. He wanted me to be afraid, and I wasn't going to give him that satisfaction. Sure, I was actually afraid. I made no moves, not even to get away from the back wall stuck in this room, like a prison sentence. By the way the man looked at me, it didn't seem like I was going to stay in this spot for very long. My ears gave a slight twitch as he drew his weapon again, but he didn't aim it towards me. He aimed it behind him, towards the doorway.
Show yourself.
He called out, but nothing showed up in front of him.
I'll shoot him if you don't show yourself.
He's Renat. Nothing appeared again. He then aimed his weapon towards me.
The three of us were near the doorway. None of the agents walked past. This area was secluded for now, only the commander was there. Knuckles took a peek at one point before turning back to me and Emmy.
He's in there.
Knuckles whispered lowly to not draw any attention, but then a minute later, the three of us heard the commander threaten to shoot Shadow. That was when I made my way to the doorway, only to be stopped by Knuckles and Emmy. They grabbed me by an arm and a leg, pulling me back toward them.
I think it's a trick.
I saw this in action movies before. They let go of me. After that, I took a small peek into the room. I could see a gun was pointed towards something. I saw something black and red, but it was hard to make out what it was, but I knew it had to be show in the room. I could see it wasn't exactly a room at all. It was more of a wooden crate. From what I could see, it only had a door. The inside was bigger than the outside. The commander was facing away from the doorway. I then turned back to them. It doesn't seem like a trick to me. I whispered before running in. Wait, don't hurt him. I yelled from behind the commander. Knuckles and Emmy ran in after me. But then something caught Emmy's attention. Something shiny on the table. She ran over to it just as the commander turned around. Knuckles stayed beside me. Once we were a few feet away from the commander.
As I made my way to the table, I saw something gold on it. Upon closer inspection, they appeared to be rings like my own I have on my wrists. I decided to grab them. They seemed important somehow. They were bigger than the portal ring. Knuckles used an aura for us to escape. I could sense an energy coming off these rings. The portal ones don't give off any energy unless they are in use. I looked back at Sonic and Knuckles. The commander was still aiming his weapon at the other hedgehog Sonic had mentioned.
Well now, how did you escape?
The man asked. Sonic stood his ground. Frowning, his eyes went from green to blue in a flash. This was definitely the hedgehog I had heard in the legend from back where I came from.